if they wear white in funeral, yeah, what do they wear in wedding? So they change the color from white to black. So when people come and visit Egypt today, and they find most ladies are wearing black, this is because it's an Islamic country. It's like in Saudi Arabia. It's like in Iran. But let me tell you something. The color of the dress here is totally different. Because when you go to a place like Luxor, you find the ladies wearing black wine. Because there in Upper Egypt, in the little villages, they practice very strong family ties. So as a courtesy, when there is someone dead in the village, all the females in the village wear black at least for a short period of time, 3 days or so. Some of them, they go for 40 days. Some of them, they go for more than this, the members of the family. Yeah? So it became like more tradition than actually acting for funeral or so. But when you go to a place like Aswan, you find the ladies wearing black dresses as well. But the color of the dress has different significance. The color of the dress is reflecting the marital status of the lady. So when the lady is getting married, or she's married, she's wearing fully black dress. If she's engaged and is about to get married, you usually find younger girls wearing transparent black dress and underneath a fully colored one. And then you find some of them are dressing fully colored. I'm talking about Nubians. Because in Aswan you have Nubians and you have locals of Aswan and you have mixture now becoming. But to talk about the Nubian traditions. So the Nubian traditions, the color of the dress is reflecting the marital status of the lady. It's very much like the wedding ring. When you get engaged, you wear the wedding ring in the right hand. When you get married, you move it from the right hand to the left hand.
Not in Greece.
Yeah. But this is how it should be. Yeah.
So the woman is colorful when she's not married.
Exactly. Exactly. This is the clear message. So here you can see we don't have much from the Roman time, of course, because the Roman were not very keen on leaving monuments. And there is, by the way, there is a great difference because some people, when they are reading history, say, Greco-Roman Egypt. Even I wrote it down here. Greco-Roman. Yeah. When we study it as history, Greek-Romans, the mixing the Greeks and the Romans in Egypt together. But this is very unfair. Because the Greeks, when they came here, they melted down in the Egyptian society and they acted Egyptian. So for example, someone like Queen Cleopatra, some people are asking, was she Greek or Egyptian? What do you think? Was she Greek or Egyptian? The Queen, her family lived for about 300 years in Egypt. She was born in Egypt, brought up in Egypt, educated in Egypt, speaking Egyptian, worshipping Egyptian gods, married in Egypt, died in Egypt, buried in Egypt. Excuse me. And then you call her Greek queen? How come? What about Queen Elizabeth II? She's a German queen. What about the Americans? All the Americans are non-Americans. Yeah? If 300 years of Queen Cleopatra in Egypt didn't make her Egyptian, so nothing would make anybody anything. You know what I mean? Queen Elizabeth II, originally a German family. She came from a German family. Yeah? So, yes, German origin. So she is not an English queen, she is a German queen. If we work it this way. No, Queen Cleopatra VII, to me, she was Egyptian. What else do you need to make her Egyptian, excuse me? 300 years of a family living in Egypt. Yeah? Born and died and buried in Egypt. Speaking Egyptian, worshipping Egyptian gods, yeah? So the Romans were different. The Roman emperors lived in Rome and they were treating Egypt as part of the Roman Empire and they were sending governors. Yeah? Governors. For a certain period of time. So it was not like the Ptolemies or the Cleopatras who lived in Egypt and got mixed with the Egyptian society and so on. No, the Romans were treating the Egyptians very badly. It was like an invasion. And I say that the Greek civilization in Egypt and the Roman invasion, or the Roman occupation to Egypt. Yeah? So that's why we had lots of revolutions against the Romans in Egypt, and many Egyptians died and lost their lives, especially in the city of Alexandria, which was the capital of Egypt at the time, because they were fighting the Romans. Didn't have the same thing at the time of the Greeks. Bearing in mind that at the time of the Romans, Christianity was introduced. The Romans came here 34 BC, shortly after Christianity was introduced in the year 61 AD by St. Mark, and became a Christian country later on. Of course, was a big conflict between the early Christians and the Romans, and at the time of the persecution, thousands and thousands, maybe millions of early Christians lost their lives because of that conflict with the Romans and with atheists or non-believers. Now we come to the coming of Islam, which is the 7th century. And I think understanding that period will help us to understand what's happening today. I don't want to talk for too long, but just touching this subject, as our main session is about ancient Egypt, I thought it is very important to know also about Egypt today. Yeah, when it comes to women, what do women do, and what happened to the idea of women by the 7th century when Islam was introduced. Islam was introduced by the 7th century AD, and it took about like 3 to 4 centuries for Islam to become the religion of the majority, gradually changing from Coptic Egypt to Islamic Egypt. By the 11th century AD, Egypt became officially an Islamic country, and today we have more than 90% practicing Islam as a religion, and the rest, about 10%, practicing Christianity or Coptic religion. One of the main concepts which changed actually the idea about women in Egypt as part of the world, that before Islam, Eve was accused as the original sinner, concerning the story of Adam and Eve mentioned in the Old Testament. So Eve was accused as the original sinner. We find in Islam it's totally the opposite. The one who was accused to be the original sinner was Adam, not Eve, which changed a little bit the idea about females. The second thing is that men and women, according to Islam as a religion, are equal in the rights and in the responsibilities. Some of you will say, this is not what we've heard about Islam. We think that Islam is not treating men and women equally. Yeah, you've heard about it. We got examples from the Muslims who are practicing Islam, but you have to understand something very important. There is a difference. There is a difference between Islam as a religion and Muslims who are practicing the religion. Christianity as a religion and the Christians who are practicing the religion. Judaism and the Jews and so on. Yeah? So when we talk about the actual religion Islam, so we have to get back to the teachings of Prophet Muhammad and the examples he left us, how to treat his family, wives, daughters, and other members of the family, and all the advices concerning families in Islam. Number 4 or number 5 is marriage and inheritance, because I think that's one of the main things about people when they think of Islam. Say, we know, guys, that you men in Islam can get married to more than one wife, up to 4, and you can change them by just shouting at their face, I divorce you 3 times. So you divorce them, and then the following week or the following month you choose another 4 wives and you get married to them, and so on. So life is easy. No, this is a joke. Yeah, it's not like this. This very shallow idea about Islam. When we talk about marriage, yes, men are allowed to have more than one wife, but according to what is mentioned in the Quran, that you are humans and you cannot be fair to all of them, so you have to stick to only one. It's better to stick to only one. But there is always an excuse or always a permission to get married to more than one. Why? Why it is restricted and at the same time is allowed? Because Islam is meant for the Muslims, is meant to be the religion to the end of time. So what happened like at the beginning of Islam, it's not happening today, it might happen later on, nobody knows. Like what? At the beginning of Islam, for example, Muslims were fighting in other parts of the world, and many of them got killed. They left widows behind them in Saudi Arabia. 1,400 years ago, what do you expect from these widows? How would they run their families? How would they look after their own children? The only way is by getting married, because those widows, 1,400 years ago, not just in Saudi Arabia, in England, in France, in other parts of the world, in Europe, the woman was hardly a housewife. Was not like a lawyer like today, or an engineer, or an architect, or a doctor, or a teacher, or you know what I mean? 14 centuries ago, the woman was a housewife. So the best way to protect that widow and to prevent her from practicing the only job which could be done at the time, which is prostitution, is by getting married. So the marriage here was encouraged to look after another family, not for pleasure, which means that, okay, I'm a Muslim, I'm allowed to have more than one wife, so I walk down the street and find someone who looks attractive, she's beautiful and so on, okay, why not getting married to her and adding it to my wives? No, this is not the right way. When Islam gave the permission for men to have more than one wife, was for the benefits of the society, not for your own benefits, not for your own pleasure, not for being greedy. Yeah? And it is restricted by showing and clearly marking that you are a human being and you cannot be fair to all the wives. And some people are acting smart. Say, I can be fair to all the wives. How can you be fair to all the wives? I spend the same amount of money on the first one, I spend the same amount of money on the second one. Okay, that could be done. I spend the same number of hours or nights with the first one, I spend the same number of hours or nights with the second one. Okay, that could be done. But can you control how would you feel to one of them? That you'll be attracted to one of them more than the other? You will like the younger or the newer one than the other? You will take care of the newer one and you neglect the other one? The way you feel, the way you treat each one of them according to your feeling is very unfair. So if there is no reason, good reason, if there is no must in getting married to another one, better not to do it, because you end up by not being fair and then you will be judged. Okay? So when it comes to marriage, you have to be very careful that yes, in Islam is allowed to have more than one wife, but it's restricted. Also concerning marriage, we have divorce. Yeah? Divorce. Is it that easy to shout at your wife's face and say, I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you, you're divorced? Go away. Yeah? There are lots of restrictions, there are lots of rules and so on. Yeah? And by the way, why 3 times? Why divorce taking place 3 times? Because the main issue in Islam is the family. Trying to maintain the family as much as they could. We are all humans. Things go wrong. We'll fight at each other and so on. We get divorced. And then the following day, following week, members of families, friends, they come along and say, hey, guys, we know that you love each other, you and your wife. Yeah? You stupid or what? Come on, what happened? I said, okay, listen, we know that you love each other. Are you calming down? Yeah, calm down. Are you calm now? Yes. Okay, talk to your wife, talk to your husband, get together. Okay, we love each other, we're back together as a family. Fine, that's the first chance. We have divorced for the first time, but we are now living together again. And then something wrong happens, we are divorced for the second time. After a year, after 10 years, whatever. But the second divorce took place. Members of families and friends got involved, and now we are back again as a man and wife. We still do that. If the divorce takes place for the third time, it has only one meaning, that either one of you or both of you don't respect that strong family ties or the holy ties, so you don't deserve to be together as a couple. So the divorce will take place after the third time for good. Okay?
Except the woman cannot do the same thing.
Yeah, the woman can do the same thing.
She cannot tell him the divorce.
You can.
She has to go to court.
مش عندك خلع دلوقتي.
لا, she has to go to court.
لا لو العصمة في ايديها.
لا, no. There's something called خلع.
Yeah.
Because you have to go to court and it's not have to be a presented case in front of the judge.
By the way, going to court is like going to write the wedding contract.
خلع is unfair because she has to give up everything for her freedom. Anyways, that's not the issue.
That's not the issue.
That's another topic.
It's another topic. But anyway, at least there is a chance.
Yes, no.
At least there is a chance if it doesn't work between the two of them. But let's say in other religions, for example, Christianity, whatever happens between the married couple, there is no chance to get divorced. So they end up by living together in the same place or living as a married couple, but they are not actually a married couple.
Yeah.
So at least there is a solution. Yeah, and things go wrong all the times. Yeah? I just, it's not my main issue talking about marriage and divorce today, but I just meant to mention that these are things forming the understanding of females in our society. Inheritance. Some people say, again, Islam is treating females unfair because we know that in Islam the male takes double what the female takes. This is unfair again because if you read the Sharia is the law in Islam, you find that there are 34 different cases of inheritance. It depends on the numbers of the members of the family. Like one family they have like 4 girls and 1 boy, 2 boys and 1 girl, a single child, no boys at all, whatever. So there are 34 different cases of inheritance. Only in 4 of them, the male will take double the female. Only 4 out of the 34 cases, the male will take double the female. And I think 11 of them, the female will take more than the male. Yeah? So this, again, it's low thing. Yeah? But when we look at it, some people say that the male takes the double of what the female takes, which is not the correct thing. Also, when we read the Islamic history, you will find that early stage, around the 7th to the 10th century, maybe it's very early stage in the Islamic history, you find that some of the female leaders were teaching the Sharia and the Quran. Around the 11th century AD, which is the time known as the Mamluks period, the Mamluks period came after Saladin. You've heard of Saladin, I'm sure, and the Crusade. The last member of the family of Saladin got married to a very famous queen called Shagar al-Dur. Yeah, Shagar al-Dur. Shagar al-Dur ruled Egypt, and she was a very strong woman. She was a very famous figure in the history of Egypt. And that was the beginning of forming Mamluk Egypt. The Mamluk means owned. The word Mamluk means owned. And they were slaves originally. They were brought as slaves from Russia and Asia Minor and so on, either male or females. The females used to work in the palace like servants and so on, and the males used to work as, so they were trained to be soldiers. So anyway, the Mamluks took over and ruled Egypt, and the beginning of that Mamluk period was by that Queen Chadar al-Dur. Again, after the Mamluk, we come to the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire actually changed the face of the Islamic world worldwide, not just in Egypt, but Egypt definitely was part of this world. As the Ottoman Empire invaded Egypt, took over from the Mamluks in the year 1517. AD definitely. So they introduced the lifestyle of the Ottoman Empire. They introduced also the dress code and even the building design. You know, maybe you've seen in some parts of Cairo, old Cairo, this kind of style of windows. There are some buildings still with this windows, what we call mashrabiyya. Mashrabiyya, arabesque, beautiful. And that gives the chance to the female to see the streets from behind without being seen. And you can see the dress of the lady here, but this is what I meant by the Ottoman Empire. Yeah, the Ottoman Empire, the dress is covering very much like what you see in